That's it. Same as they were.
Yeah, that one was so dark.
Yeah, I could read it, but I thought that's what it
I'm trying to get clarification what we are allowed.
Excuse me? Did you see that?
I'm not saying that.
Good morning.
No.
Call the meeting to order. Katie Brown, could you give us the invocation, please?
Lord, thank you for this opportunity to gather here this morning in this beautiful place where we live. We ask that you be with us in powerful ways and guide our conversations and open our hearts and our minds so that we can clearly see what you would have us do. We ask that you guide those who guide our nation and that you bring unity to its people for the betterment of all. We thank you for the blessings of the abundant rains. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Now the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have a quorum present. Bill Harmon is present, as Vice President. I'm present, Dan Sullivan. Debbie Isaacs is present as Treasurer, and John Hope is present as Member Director at Large. Also present is Mr. Richard Lawrence, our Executive Officer, and Ms. Rodriguez, our Executive Secretary. So we do have a quorum. Before we go into the consent agenda, I have two housekeeping items I just want to take care of. One is, again today, I've always tried to avoid executive sessions to the best that I can, and unfortunately, so far I've only been successful at one meeting. It seems things come up that we have to have them, and again today we have one that could end up being lengthy, so I'm going to ask the board if they're willing to have the member visit moved up to just before we go into executive session when we adjourn this regular session. Is that all right with my board members?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The second housekeeping item I have is Marie Perkins is absent. She's on vacation. She gave me a lot of notice. She's been telling me about her intended departure for a couple of months, and would like to be excused from this meeting. So I would ask all those in favor of making this an excused absence, please signify raising their hands. Okay, that excuse me, that takes care of that. With that, we can have we move to the approval of the minutes as part of the consent agenda. Does anyone have any corrections they want made?
On number 2 in the consent agenda, that is just a regular meeting. That was not a special meeting. On the one.
Yeah. On the agenda itself.
Yes, on the agenda itself.
Item number 1.
Hello. See, the correction is on the agenda.
Yeah, it's been on there for a couple of times now.
Okay.
I've got one on the flip side, page 2. Need a volunteer with a pickup to transport the maintenance, the bottles to maintenance for billing. First sentence,
Any other corrections?
not that I know of.
Okay, our secretary is not here. Is there any report she's asked anyone else to present? No. Okay, with that, we can move to the treasurer's report.
The actual bank transfers were $1,486.05 was transferred from the Bank and Trust General Account to the Los Morris account. There was $68,161.29 was transferred from the Texas Community Credit Card account to the Texas Community Checking account for operating expenses, and $66,750 was transferred from the Bank and Trust General account to the Bank and Trust Payroll account, for a total of $136,397.34 for June's operating expenses, which was $1,102.66 less than estimated.
Thank you. Next are the bank transfer funds. I guess you did that. Okay. We then move to the executive officer's report. Richard.
Yes, Mr. President, is this, can anybody hear this?
No.
That's not on?
I could hear mine being on, but.
Take that.
Does that help? No?
I'll speak very loudly. It's gonna be brief.
Don't wear yourself out.
I want to bring you up to date on the outsourcing of landscaping for the Fort Clark Springs Common Grounds. We do have 3 interested contractors. We have met with each one of them. We have provided them with maps indicating what landscaping needs to be done. We are now waiting for the return of bid proposals. With respect to the hiring of a CPA, I can tell you this much, that the search for the right CPA is progressing very nicely. With respect to the hiring of a golf course superintendent, I will begin the interview process on Monday and hope to fill that position rather quickly. With respect to legal counsel, with the board's approval, we will soon have an attorney to assist us in the pursuit of delinquent assessments, in the placing of liens on properties, and hopefully not, but in the pursuit of foreclosures in the judicial foreclosure process. I'm happy to report that we received a dividend because our staff has been so careful in using their training for safety. We have received a dividend of $2,986 from our insurance carrier. They returned that to us because our staff has been so safe. You have allowed us to purchase a grapple. You permitted up to $2,000. I'm happy to report that we now have a grapple for $1,724, less than what you approved. Unfortunately, we don't have the manpower to use it as much as we'd like to right now, but we will. With respect to traffic enforcement, we have the materials, we have the posts, we have the signs, we just don't have the manpower to dig the post holes and start planting those signs. But that's going to happen just as quickly as we can. And that really concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions, board members? All right. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Passes. Now we go to committee reports. Is there anyone here from the airport committee that would make a report? No. Architectural committee. Appoint Committee.
And I believe there are notes in your packet. Yeah, there we go.
Does anyone want to bring
I
in?
believe that they had some issues with fencing, wanted the fort to look at the fencing on the outside perimeter. I think that was the biggest issue that there really was. And then they had somebody that was wanting, someone resigned from the equine committee, and they wanted to fill that position.
Okay, yes, that, we're going to, down on the action items, deal with those resignations. Actually, there's been 2 resignations from there. And that fencing is another manpower issue. I suggested, I don't know if it's reached them or what they're doing with it, but maybe they get a couple of estimates to fix that fence. It shouldn't really be that big a deal, I wouldn't think, a couple of men in a day with a few materials. So maybe they can get it resolved that way, as long as we don't have the manpower at this time to handle it. But if they could get those estimates, Debbie, if you can pass that on to them, appreciate it, thank you. Golf Committee.
The golf committee did not meet this past, or this month, but I sent everybody the figures, the charts on the usage. By looking at the 3-year comparison, that's the only thing I'm gonna bring up. The 3-year comparison from 16, 17, 18, the figures are down, but it has been extremely hotter this last month than it had been in the past. Other than that, I'm not sure what's going on, but the figures are down by about 100 players for the month of June for the last 3 years.
Thank you. The Historic Preservation Committee, Bill, come on up. We are going to deal with part of your issues under action items.
Yes, sir.
But what's your report, please?
Again, I'll point out that you have minutes in your packet for June 20 and July 11, minutes of the Preservation Committee meetings.
Thank you.
For those who don't know me, my name is Bill Peak. I am the president of the Historic Building Committee, which used to be known as the Preservation Committee. So much for that. The only thing I wanted to bring up, well, actually 2 things. One is the painting of the front of the Post Theater. We had taken a look at it, noticed that it was getting kind of shabby. There was several birds' nests underneath and so forth. So the committee decided that we would do the work ourselves. Steve Giblin and his grandson have already pressure washed part of the front of it, and we're just going to do touch-up. We're not going to paint the whole thing, but we're going to touch up the eaves and some of the other parts of that try to make it just a little more presentable. It's not going to cost the fort anything other than the paint, which I know is an action item for the $270 that I spent to buy the paint, which is more paint than we actually need, and so I have some left over so we can do other projects with paint handy. But it's all, the paint was all bought at Sherwin-Williams within the guidelines given for the painting of the different buildings on the fort, so it will be the correct colors. The other thing I have is, I don't know whether I need to present this to you at this time or not. One of the items we talked about was Hickman Hall. As you know, the rain is getting in from the 2nd floor through the doors, going down to the bottom floor, and has already ruined some of the flooring that was put in just 2 years ago by Russell and Patty Knoll. So we need to stop that before it ruins any more of that floor and has to be replaced. In regards to that, what we came up with was an idea of putting an awning over the 2nd story, the balcony on the 2nd story. It's historically correct, and I'm going to leave this with you all for an action item for next month then. But the photographs are in here showing the awning back in the 1940s, and a draft letter that I've put together to the Texas Historical Commission, which I'm going to be in contact with only to get the proper point of contact and their mailing address, right, mailing address. But obviously, with your all's approval, we would like to go ahead with that, get bids and so forth, so we can stop that leakage into the bottom floor. So I don't know, should I leave this with you at this time or later?
Yeah, I think you can give it to Richard, maybe.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. I guess that's about it. Debbie, if I could, would it be okay if I gave you a call this evening and asked you to talk about the checkbook and the transfer? And I know there's paperwork we got to do and go to the bank and sign all that.
Well, the board needs to have some conversations before that can all happen.
Sure, okay.
Yes, but I do have you which I told Linda last month. Here's your updated balances with the impound money plus impound money plus what's in the historic building.
Great.
29 something thousand at the bottom.
Excellent.
That's both counts together.
Okay.
And that was as of last month when I got to talk to Randy after this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions on, I finished my report?
Anyone have questions for him here? Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes, sir, appreciate it.
My understanding, the Recreation Committee does not function during the summer months, so we should have no report. Recycling. As Helena begins her recycling, I should mention that I've been trying to find a volunteer typist to retype the rules and regulations. No, not the rules and the rules and regulations, so they can work with them a little better. So if there's a willing typist to volunteer, please let us know. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
The problem, people, is the present size of the document has type that's like number 9. It's really tiny, and we can't do any revisions because there's no spaces. So I need a document that's right now 11 pages to have spaces and larger print, so we could write our little revisions in there. Recycling. In the next week or two, we should be sending a truck. I think we have about 30 cartons and 2 bales of plastic. So that'll be, shipping costs $400, so we're probably not gonna make any money whatsoever, because mostly our main product seems to be mixed paper, and right now it's getting 0. So we're probably gonna be a negative for this shipment. Let's see, June, we had 14 volunteers. July, we had 12, and I'm still looking for folks. So 4 to 6 on Thursday, 8:30 to 10 on Saturday, 10 to 12 on Saturday. So also it'd be great if we had a couple of men to alternate moving, using the forklift to alternate with Bill and I to move heavy cartons from one side of the room to the other. So, and again, we thank Steve Giblin for moving the plastic to the maintenance shop, and of course, Bill Herman and Sam.
Thank you. The RV Park Ad Hoc Committee.
don't really have too much to say. We did meet on Sunday for the first time. 4 of our 5 members were there. Each member had the opportunity to express what they thought maybe some of the problems were in the RV park. And we were meeting again this coming Sunday.
All right, thank you, Joe. The Renters Ad Hoc Committee. Anyone here from that committee?
I don't think we've met.
You haven't met yet?
We haven't.
Okay. We're going to take care of additional appointments. You had the one resignation past efforts, and so maybe that'll facilitate you to get started.
Charlie Fields isn't here today, is he?
All right, thank you. Community Council.
Good morning, Allison Watkinson, Treasurer, Community Council. First, Community Council would like to thank you for a very productive workshop meeting. We really appreciate you meeting with us at Wednesday afternoon. I just want to do a recap of what we talked about at that meeting for those people who were not there, and for those in the audience who showed up for that meeting as well. Thank you so much. We have dates of July 28th, August 25th, September 1st, and September 22nd for outdoor movies to be shown at the Post Theater, and they will be shown on the exterior wall west side. It will not require a screen set up. We will talk to Old Quarry about using their sound equipment. If they are not agreeable with that, we do have some sound equipment that we can use, but it's much more antiquated. The grass will need to be cut and anthills treated. Community Council is willing to help out with that. And then concessions will be done from inside the Post Theater. Community Council wants to pay $25 for the use of the theater for the days that we show a movie. Not per movie, because as soon as we move inside, there'll be 3 movies per day. When it's outside, it's just 1 movie, because of course we have to have it dark. We talked about the beverage cooler. I don't know if that's been transferred over yet or not. The beverage cooler that is in there does belong to Old Quarry, and they are just fine with us unplugging that, and then we'll see if we can figure out a place to move it to, because it is very antiquated and on its last leg. We talked about purchasing a screen, and I have not followed up with Philip to find out. Old Quarry, again, was okay with that, as long as it does not interfere with any of their lights or anything else that's in there. I tried putting our dates on the book this morning, but they need a contract. So we need to know whether you all are going to be writing up that contract, or if you want us to write up that contract. Also, I made a misstatement at that workshop. I said we didn't care whether it was an open or closed gate as long as we knew. But our board of directors, this is Fort Clark Springs Community Council Board of Directors, want an open gate. We recognize, however, that we represent every member on the fort, and there's mixed feeling about it. But our board of directors do want an open gate. Our reality is that the town can live without ever coming over to Fort Clark Springs. But we, as members of Fort Clark Springs and residents of Fort Clark Springs, cannot live without going into town or interacting with the town with various ways: churches, school, grocery store, library, restaurant, Walmart on the hill, hardware stores, and other businesses. We are there. And so anything that we can do, I think, that will help us to continue the work that was done during the past year with building relationships with the townspeople, I think is a very positive thing to do. So beyond that, when we start up, October through April movies will be in the Post Theater, and we will work around Old Quarry Society's schedule on that. And there will be 2 movies in December, as long as we can get board approval, because the last day of school before Christmas break for the past 2 years, we've had 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders come to the Post Theater to watch a movie that Community Council has sponsored. And again, you know, the children coming onto the fort, those of us who do not live here, being able to come in and sit down in the Post Theater and see a big movie, or a movie on the big screen. This year, the movie will be, for the school day, will be Grinch. Last year it was Polar Express, and so, and then our regular movie in December will be something different. So 2 movies in December. Are there any questions?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way possible that you can have the non-members who would be coming through pre-register, have them call a number and say, here's a name, and make a list so that we have some idea of who's on the fort, who's coming in?
Could they call into the security gate and let them know that they are coming? Or do you want them to call a member of community council to reserve?
I think it would be better to have them call a member of the community council
Okay,
and register, and then the community council on that evening could provide the security gate with a list of all the people that
Sure.
are non-members. Actually, I don't think it would be all that many, maybe 10 or 20, something like that. But then we do have a record and know who's coming on.
yes, absolutely. And we can do that in our advertising, and we can go ahead and have them call me or text me or email me if that works for you, and then we will compile the list to turn into the gate.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we could also probably ask security to use, some common sense and judgment if some 12-year-old shows up and wants to go to the movie and isn't on the list. It's not somebody that's probably going to create a problem.
Probably not.
All right, thank you, Alice.
All right, thank you very much, appreciate you.
Okay, we now come to the section for member comments pertaining to the action items. So anyone that would like to speak for or against, and the procedure is that we do not get into a debate, but simply listen to your concerns and then take those into consideration when the board itself debates the issue. So anyone that does have a concern, please step forward. None. All right, the first item on the under action items is adopting a mission and a vision statement. Does anyone want to volunteer to read that? Hearing none, I will do it. At our workshop, we came up with a mission statement, which was ultimately agreed to as follows. Fort Clark Springs Association Incorporated is a homeowners association located on historic Fort Clark. Seems self-evident, but there it is in writing, an official statement. Under a vision statement, Fort Clark Springs Association Incorporated strives to provide a variety of amenities and facilities for use by members, guests, patrons, and visitors as approved by the Board of Directors. Fort Clark Springs Association Incorporated is funded through various member assessments and diverse revenue sources. Fort Clark Springs Association Incorporated shall submit to governance by U.S. federal law, state of Texas law, articles of incorporation, declaration of protective restrictions, bylaws, and rules and regulations. Fort Clark Springs Association Incorporated further strives to maintain a quiet, relaxed, secure residential community, to maintain an efficient security department operating within the constraints of law, to maintain controlled access to the grounds and buildings of the association, to execute efficient conduct of the association's business and affairs, to have clearly defined and consistent policies for use of common property and amenities, to preserve the historical integrity of the buildings and grounds owned by the association, to maintain in usable condition all real estate and equipment owned by the association, to maintain interworking relationships with surrounding communities, and to encourage active involvement of its members. Added to that is a values statement that we are to take into consideration. And I will read that and make one suggestion on it. In all our activities, to achieve our vision and mission, we value integrity, fairness, consistent firmness, and common sense, community participation, respect, cooperation, and sense of community. The one suggestion I would have under consistent firmness, just that alone to me is a bit empty or confusing. It's actually either an adverb or an adjective depending how you use it, and I'm no English expert, but I do recognize that. I think you have to have that apply to something. So I would say consistent firmness in the application of all our governing documents. Just add that, of all our governing documents. That would be my suggestion. Comments from board members? Would that one change to the value statement be
I think
acceptable?
that's acceptable.
Okay.
I make a motion that we, do you have something, Richard?
To be sure, are we including the phrase in the application of all our governing documents?
Yes.
Is that before or after common sense?
Before. Then after we do that, then we'll use common sense.
I set you up for that one.
I know. It was not wasted.
Then I would make the motion that we accept it.
Second.
The motion includes a mission statement, vision statement, and the values.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Passes. I should also comment that we have a controlled access statement policy that was put together by staff that I think is very good, and at some point we'll be incorporating that with it. But it uses a lot of common sense there involving access to the port and to our facilities. Next we have to adopt a resolution for the use of common property resolution, which is stated as follows. The Port Clark Springs Association Board of Directors hereby resolves that no entity, individual, club, group, or business that charges for participation or restricts or limits participation in any way shall utilize any Fort Clark Springs Association-owned property, facilities, or grounds in any way or manner without a written rental or use agreement approved by the Fort Clark Springs Association Board of Directors. It's as simple as that. That's basically saying that any of those organizations, entities, individual, club, group, or businesses, if they're going to charge to participate in their activity, or if they're going to restrict who can participate in their activity, they're not being excluded from use of our properties, but they need to come to the board of directors and get an approval and a agreed upon use agreement or rental agreement in order to use that property. So this again we discussed and basically agreed on at the workshop. Is there any comments or discussion?
Now, will this, when we finish our full policy with our workshop at the end of the month, this is in conjunction with that?
Yeah, I don't see it shouldn't interfere at all, because what you're dealing with is what's rentable, what isn't rentable,
That's
how
right.
much,
Exactly.
all the little
But this
details.
still-
This is general.
Exactly, I just wanted that known.
Yeah.
You got it, Debbie. We have a motion to adopt this.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Passes. We next come to consider approval of Preservation Committee's planned projects and reimburse expenditures pertaining to the Pulse Theater. The reimbursement amounts to $270.45. And as Bill shared with us during his report, it's involving basically painting the, or touch up the painting on the front of the Pulse Theater. Bill, does that include painting any of the trim, the dark brown, like the doors?
Yes, sir.
Was that a yes?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion or questions?
I make a motion, we approve.
I second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Next, we have letters of resignations submitted by Mrs. Melissa Simon and Mrs. Carolyn Cooper from the Equine Committee. I believe we all have copies of those letters. Melissa is moving, and Carolyn Cooper feels she no longer wants to participate in that.
Did we get an actual, thing from her? I didn't see an actual. Oh,
That's a Paper Reduction Act of Fort Clark Springs.
okay.
All right. Do we have a motion to accept these two resignations?
I make a motion that we accept these resignations.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, next we have the question of the open gate for the community council's movies nights. We've already come to an agreement, I believe, that as Allison reported, that they're going to pay $25 per movie event, regardless of the number of movies they show. And they're going to use the Pulse Theater during the summer, the outside, and maybe part of the front lobby for concessions. And then in the winter, in the inside, and they're going to coordinate with the Old Quarry Society, as I understand it. So the only question left is whether we want to allow an open gate, which means non-members can enter the fort to attend those free movies. And I think the best way to handle this is to make a motion, and then we can discuss it. And then motion I would suggest is that we approve having an open gate, with the community council making every effort to have any non-members that are going to attend pre-register with them.
Can I say something?
Oh, absolutely.
I feel like that it's some of the people that come to them movies probably come on a whim that just, okay, let's go to the movie today. So I don't know that they would be able to get in touch with somebody, but why couldn't we have a sheet at the gate for anybody going to that movie just to sign that sheet? Non-members got to stop there anyhow. They can't just come in.
Well, yes, they do, and actually they're supposed to register them and get their name and that information.
But I mean, in other words, in saying, we're going to the movie.
I think, well, then we could put it in a different way. The only thing I'm thinking is if you get, the movie starts at a certain time, so all of a sudden you get 10 or 12 coming in all at the same time, that's gonna put a stress on the gate. So maybe we could ask them to please register, but not turn anybody away.
Oh, I agree. With that, on the end of it, I agree. I mean, in other words, because there will be people who are gonna show up at the last minute and wanna come in.
Sure.
So I think that it's pretty simple to have a piece of paper down there for them to sign and say, "Oh, okay, we're going to the movie."
All right, we could say that we,
Don't we need to make a motion to discuss
to
this?
discuss it further, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go
Does
ahead.
anyone want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion that we'll discuss the events.
Okay.
I
You're
second
making a
that.
motion to discuss.
Well, there's more events to talk about even.
I second that.
Okay, this one is confined to the movie night though.
Yeah.
Okay, I would suggest that the motion state,
That we will discuss the issue of the movies.
I make a motion that we approve the open gate for community council movie nights.
okay, that's the motion.
I second that.
That's second. All right, then you're gonna leave it up to the community council to, on a voluntarily basis, try to get as many pre-registered for us as they can. Is that workable, Allison?
That is workable.
But are we gonna limit the open gate to certain hours? We're not gonna open the gate for the whole day, are we?
No, just for the movie night.
Just for the movie. We're just
We
talking.
just need to stipulate so everybody realizes.
Okay, would you make a friendly amendment that Bill might consider accepting?
I would like to amend that the open gate is in junction within an hour or so of the movie starting.
Is that acceptable?
Yes, it is.
Bill accepts your friendly amendment. Nice to keep things friendly.
I second that.
You second it. Okay, is there any further discussion? And just to clarify for the secretary, this is going to approve an open gate for movie night within an hour or so of the time the movie is to be shown. I don't think we need to say any more, do we?
No.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, we also have a request for an open gate for the Kinney County Arts Council on December 9th, 2018 for the Christmas Tour of Homes. And this is a annual event that we always have and always cooperate with. The Kinney County Art Council does a lot for both communities, is heavily involved in many positive things. And so it's up to us though to approve this open gate for the Christmas Tour of Homes.
So moved.
Go ahead, Bill.
So moved.
Bill moves that we approve an open gate on December 9th, 2018 for the Kinney County Arts Council Christmas Tour of Homes.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor? Passes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for all you do for us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Under old unfinished business, we have nothing. Under new business, discuss IT hardware issues. You want to handle that one, Richard?
I'll handle that.
Go for it.
I'm afraid that I don't have a complete report for you right now, but here's the issue. Our mainframe, our server is so antiquated that our IT person no longer wants to work on it. His fear is that it's going to crash while he does. And we really cannot let that happen because, for two reasons. Everything about Fort Clark is on that server. And our protocols for backing up are less than adequate.
And are also on the same server.
It's all on the same server. So I will be proposing to you very soon the purchase of a new server with authorization to have him install and to develop proper backup protocols. I'll come to you with that as soon as I get some numbers.
Thank you. Do we, in the meantime, have any stopgap measure that
We're about to.
cover us
Yes.
until that is?
Yes, we had to order some additional equipment, and as soon as that gets here, then we will install, and after we install, then we'll be protected. But right now, we are in a very delicate position.
Thank you. Report, we had an email vote of the board granting a waiver of encroachment in Unit 1. And this was really just a procedural situation. There is a property there that was built, if I recall right, in 1984, or at least a long time ago.
So,
And they were given a variance because the eaves of the house, of the roof, went over common property, I guess, by about a foot or so. However, at that time, that variance was evidently not recorded. And now they're selling the property, and in today's world of real estate, you have seller disclosures in which they disclose and acknowledge that there is an encroachment there, and then yet there is no recorded waiver to allow it, so you could have a legal problem, and the title company insists on certain documentation to take care of that, a waiver of any action on it. And so we voted to do that. It was simply to correct something that wasn't handled quite properly 30-some years ago. And the board did vote by email to allow that waiver, to execute that waiver, so they could go ahead and sell the property. Okay, we will now adjourn, but not directly to executive session. If as I said earlier today, our executive session may last a bit. So we could do the visiting session between you and the board members right now before we go into the executive session, but I will adjourn this session to reconvene after our executive session. All right, feel free to come on up and
Anybody that had some questions earlier, if you wanted to talk to any board member, you can come up and talk to anybody at this point in time.
Debbie, do you want to write up a contract? Or do you want us to write up?
I think we're going to try
Okay. Let me give the board a take care of that. No, what I really don't need to check is on the front. Okay, that'll cover it. And then just a consignment contract.
Yeah.
Now, I know you guys
I think that's the Fort Clark putting forward some of the bill of getting that. And I don't
I
agree
just
with
didn't
that
know,
because we
because they wanted a
So,
contract. They gave the date.
I don't agree with that
They wanted a
portion.
contract.
No, and get our security, I know you guys are I know y'all have to do that, y'all have to go with. And I understand that security has so much that they can do, right? To move rights around. So, that's why I went in this literature, like Ms. Jurgen said, so that they can make sure
That's all we're asking for, is more patrolling, because we're out there,
But we
and
may.
that entrance.
We always know a pool in that area,
And they're getting away with it because there's no one there or no one there to oversee the conditions that we have come down to. I haven't been in this ward, I've lived in the ward since 2002. And I've always kept bringing my kids here. And like I said, we have you guys offer us, my concern is more patrol, especially.
don't like that.
Could be better. I got one of these summer colds that's making my pulse worse and I can go to the
And we'll shorten it
We don't like it.
They already get comfortable there, they're comfortable, they're not working in that area.
Very last game, I did an overnight, and I reworked the hours, I went
You have center lights. Yeah, well, see, that's the other thing, the second my center lights go off, because I have them set to where the second someone touches it, they go off.
Yeah, I need to.
That's what I do, yeah, and I have them in the back as well. So what do we need?
One of the board members needs to place your line.
But I have to get him. I have to get him. I have to say this, where he didn't like it
It's an honor.
I hope it's on.
It is an honor.
Yes, ma'am.
They got all the equipment to make this. It's a matter of taking a box, scraping the ground and piling it to one side. No big deal. But it's a matter of doing it. It's a matter of doing it. I'll be back.
Is he still out in front of me?
I come by there, when I'm saying I have not been. I don't want
Seemed like it was gone.
But, there, he has pretty good amount of time.
Wonderful. And another one that will speak on behalf of our friend Helen Jones is putting up with those 2 vehicles. I think Dan mentioned it to you.
Yes.
I don't know what the name is. Yeah. Can't you get the vehicles out of there? You've been putting up with that for how long?
What is this renters?
Let's put it this way. It's stuff we have. So,
Mr. Who gets it done.
yeah, well, I don't know about that. I just told what to do.
Yeah, you're doing a good job.
Thank you.
I think.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. From when they were this high.
Yeah.
I know them now.
Yeah, my mom lives in the my dad is
Oh, I didn't know.
and I worked for a while there and then I didn't So I have a little how many rentals are you know, and I know you can request. And I was going to talk with Dennis to see if he can help me out with the fact that we're
Well, there's the other license. Local county and sheriff.
I believe.
It's hard to have a
Anyway, thanks again.
Bill told me.
because the city needs someone to come because they don't have it. Well, the one man show wasn't gonna cut it.
Just right around. And I've been on the road for a couple of years now. Now I'm retired. It's absolutely disgusting. There's trailers with no windows in the front. There's trash. It's where a
To sell, I might have not. Here we go. Okay.
We're ready to go.
Okay, it's 11:50. We've returned from executive session, reconvened into our regular session. At the executive session, we were introduced to Andrew Smullen, our top CPA candidate, and we had a discussion with him. We all had an opportunity to get to know him. Then we have discussed individual enforcement assessments to two members that are not members in good standing, are delinquent, and we're going forward to attempt collection of that money. We also approved a contract for legal services with Mr. Todd Durden.
Actually, you discussed it,
Well, we discussed it.
and you now need to come out.
Excuse me, you are right, we need a vote. Do we have a motion to approve that contract with Todd Durden?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Now we have approved it. Thank you for catching that. We dealt with committee appointments, and we would like to have a motion to appoint to the Architectural Committee Joel Lackness and Linda Hassel.
Make a motion.
We have
Second.
a motion and a second. All those in favor? Thank you. We Also, would like to consider appointing to the rental committee Mr. Don Taylor and Mrs. Wendy Knox.
I'll make that a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor? Passes. Last, we have a volunteer to serve on the Equine Committee by the name of Brandy Realhaas. Do we have a motion to appoint Brandy Realhaas to the Equine Committee?
Motion.
Second.
Whatever.
All in favor?
All in favor? Sorry.
We also, just as a point of information, are going to continue to purchase water to fill the pool up until the next board meeting, and we'll relook at it again. So it's now 11:55. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion. After you mentioned, or we mentioned that the next board meeting is August 15th.
Okay, August 15th in the boardroom, 9:30 a.m.
Right. Adjourn.
Okay, all in favor of adjournment? You don't really need a second on the motion to adjourn, actually.
Okay. I don't mean to do that.
All right, thank you all. That concludes our business.
I thought you looked at me like, go ahead and say something.
Next time I want you to do it, I'll look at you and I'll look away the next time.
Do you know of anybody else coming in here after us? I'll just turn the air conditioner.
Yeah, it's weird.
So,
Yeah, thank you for this, because you're right, it was very hard trying to read.
Christie,
this.
did
it was.
Cut the
a little
camera.
tough.
I'm about
All right, we'll see you all down the road, or July 30th, I guess.
Thank you.